Here are all of the needlepoint items that you will need when you get started, starting with the needlepoint canvas, the needle, the thread, the three most important parts, the scissors, stretcher bars, tacks, and magnets. What we're going to do right now is get everything set up and ready to stitch. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is put the needle on the magnet and get the magnet all situated. So when you get a set of like needle minders, you do not have to have a really fancy special one. You can get a really fancy special one. They come in all kinds of cute little designs, but that's not required. You can just get a pair of simple magnets from Amazon or wherever magnets are sold. It does not have to be overly complicated or overly fancy. Like, that's just not necessary. Next up, let's put together our stretcher bars. Like I said before, stretcher bars come in two sets of two. And some people find that putting them together and also opening them is a little bit tricky. So I'm just going to show you how I like to open them. I like to take my scissor and just gently cut the plastic scissors back down. We won't need those anymore, at least not right now. So get two of them freed from their plastic. Now I'll get the other two free from their plastic. Now, some people find stretcher bars like to be a nuisance, or I've seen the argument made that stretcher bars are just like a frivolous item that you don't really need, and it's like an upsell. Truthfully, I don't really believe that it's totally an upsell. They're very, very cheap. I think I saw them at my store for like $2.50 or something. Like, maybe it's between $3 and $5, somewhere in there. But you can use them over and over and over and over again. Sometimes I've seen people take their stretcher bars and take a pen. I've got a micron pen here handy, and just mark on them what size they are. So these are 5-inch, 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 5-inch. Again, this isn't required, but it just helps you to stay organized when you are putting these supplies back into storage and pulling them out later. So how do we assemble the stretcher bars? As you can see, they have these little sides that have two prongy bits and a little notch. So it's a prong, notch, prong, notch. The way that it needs to fit together is that the opposite sides go together so that the entire thing is completely flush when they're put together. So it fits together like a puzzle. What you don't want to happen is you don't want to try and put them together like this, because then they're not flush with one another. Or even I've seen, or I've attempted, sometimes I make this mistake and I'll try and put it together like this, and then I'm like, oh wait, that's not right. So you want them to fit together like a puzzle and be totally flush. Now, it is pretty tricky to put these together, so I'm just gonna wrestle. And if I need to, I will occasionally use the table and press. That's gonna make my camera really unhappy if I do that. I'm gonna try not to. So we've got one corner put together. Now I just kind of add it on. I don't really have any kind of rhyme or reason to how I do this, other than you just get it done, and it's a lot of wrestling. So that wasn't so bad. I've seen other people use like a rubber mallet to help get them together, and that works too. That is totally fine. Again, I'm probably just going to use the table and press. Don't press too hard. I have broken these, not this size, but like longer ones. I've definitely broken them in my attempts to get them all put together. So I'm gonna continue to press, and the camera's probably gonna shake and get really annoyed, but it's just part of the process. I will say too, once you've used stretcher bars once or twice, like these ones are brand new from the container, once you use them a few times, they do tend to kind of break in, and they're easier to put together. This is what you want them to look like, or even this, where they're like fully together. I'm gonna keep on pressing on this side to get it fully attached, and then I'll be right back. The stretcher bars are put together now, and so it's time to put the needlepoint canvas onto the stretcher bars. There are two ways to attach your needlepoint canvas to your stretcher bars. You can either put it like this so that your design is here and the canvas is on top of the stretcher bars, so the tacks would go right here. You can also do it where the tacks are on top, or the tacks are on the bottom, and the stretcher bars are on top, and you are stitching here. This is called in the well, when you stitch with your stretcher bars on the top of the canvas rather than the canvas on top of the stretcher bars. Either way is totally fine, and the way that you attach the canvas is going to be the same no matter which method you choose. So this is a place where personal preference is definitely paramount. So if you prefer to have it on top, that's great. If you want to try stitching in the well, that's fine too. There's really no like actually correct answer. I have some people, I've heard some people say that when they stitch in the well, they know that their stitching is protected, because if it's on top of the stretcher bars like this, then your stitching can be rubbed up against or whatever. If it is arranged in this fashion, then only the back of your canvas is like exposed and can be rubbed against stuff. So if you're doing a lot of beading or embellishment and like it's really sensitive and you don't want anything to happen to it, that would be a good reason to decide to stitch in the well. I'm going to stitch with it on top just because that's my preference. Now, when you are putting on the tacks on your needlepoint canvas and putting it onto stretcher bars, you want the tacks to be fairly close together. If the tacks are too far apart, then you may lose tension. It may sort of get sort of wobbly, and you don't want that. The whole point of stretcher bars is to keep the canvas secure and also keep it tight and tense. You want it to feel like the top of a drum when you tap it, when all the tacks are fully on. So I like to sort of do my tacks no farther than an inch apart. Sometimes my tacks are a little bit closer together than that. Generally, I start in the middle, go either side, and then sort of come between. So do one in the middle, on another side, and then come between. And I like to do one entire side first, and then do the opposite side. And I like to pull the canvas across and then place my tack like that with a good bit of tension. See, I'm using my hand and I'm pulling the canvas across, and then I'm placing my tack where it is nice and tight across the stretcher bars. Now, if you find that you are stitching and your canvas gets loose, it is okay to undo the tacks and redo them, repeating this process, getting your canvas nice and tight across the stretcher bars. Sometimes that happens, sometimes the canvas itself just doesn't have enough sizing in it, or the sizing has gotten hot, or it's been humid, or something can go wrong at any point. And so anyway, it's not uncommon for the canvas to lose tension across stretcher bars. If you want to get that back, just take it off and reapply. So again, just repeating this entire process. Now in your box of tacks, there's this blue lever situation. Now when you are removing tacks, always stick the blue lever underneath the tape and then pop the tack out like that. It really saves your fingernails, it saves your manicure, and then placing it underneath the tape too is just a really good way to get a hold of it. Third side done. Now for the fourth side. Again, I'm gonna try and pull it across so that I can get some good tension here. And once again, the point of stretcher bars is to give yourself something to hold onto to increase the ergonomics of your stitching. It really helps people's hands, and lots of people say that it's much more comfortable to stitch with a project on stretcher bars. The other reason is for this tension to keep it straight so that while we're stitching, the thread tension doesn't pull the canvas out of its shape. And then you can reuse your tacks, you can reuse your stretcher bars, and then you are all set. It's kind of sparkly. I like to keep all of these, set them aside, and now your project is ready to stitch.